All right, we are live for the Church in Context podcast. If you're just joining us, you can go ahead and skip ahead about 5 minutes because the next 5 minutes maybe won't be worth your time, or maybe it will be. I don't know, but we will start. You'll see a countdown, and we'll actually start the recording of the podcast. But yeah, just wanted to jump on and get our faithful viewers some time to jump on. We have Jonah, the host of the show. How's it going, Jonah?
Feels good. I feel powerful every Thursday coming on and running this thing. So
most excellent. And then we have Mrs. Davis with us. How should we introduce you today?
You can call me Angela.
Okay. Well, your name, you chose Mrs. Davis.
It came up that way. I don't know why. I feel like you're the one that filled it in that way.
No, you've been on StreamYard before with us. I remembered.
Oh.
Here we go.
Are you fixing me right now?
I am.
I don't know that you can change it.
There we go.
I feel like after you turn 18, you can call me by my real name.
Wow.
I know.
Perfect.
I'm still trying to get over that hump a little bit. It's better now, but coming back to the church and working with people, I'm always like, yeah, that took me a long time. Which I feel like if you know me at all, it doesn't surprise anyone that I called people like Mr. Smith up until I was 20. Is anyone shocked? No.
My husband still calls older people at church Mr. and Mrs. and they look at him and they're like, dude, you're gray now. Will you please call me by my first name?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have your husband on the show. I'm not sure, like, for which reason.
For what reason?
Yeah.
Maybe like food
bread.
safety.
Yeah.
Food safety? Is that what you said?
Food safety. Because like he eats out of the garbage can at church.
Right. I was thinking him, and then having like Ben Landell as like having both of them.
Or get someone from the state of Oregon.
Yes. There is that story about the Fred Meyer in Portland a couple weeks ago. Did you?
Yeah.
Where there was like when the power went out and they had to throw the food away, and the police had to actually like guard the dumpster.
Yeah.
Like, I would not be surprised if Will Davis was either there or arrested for stealing like
if
a
it
ham.
had showed up as an option on TikTok and he saw the video, he would have been down there because that's his primary like social media. That's how he gets most of his information is by watching TikToks.
Interesting. I don't know that.
Yeah, sorry. John once messaged me and said, I get more TikToks from Will than I do from teenagers.
It's true. That's still true.
He loves sending TikToks.
That's awesome.
Oh, how do your kids feel about that?
How does Audrey feel? That's the one I'm curious
Audrey,
about. Yeah.
We all send TikToks to each other constantly. So, I mean, I think if he were like making them, it would be a different thing. But like he's just consuming them and then distributing. So he's like he's forwarding emails. Like how older people did 20 years ago, they would forward emails.
Yes.
And then like 40 years ago, they would like cut out clippings from newspapers and like give them to people. That's Will with TikToks.
Gotcha.
It's so true.
It is true. You guys know that there's that one guy at church who used to literally spend hours a day going through every newspaper, cutting out articles. And then he would come to church in a manila envelope and then give them to people. Like he had a manila envelope of clippings for the Davises and for all these different people. That was his ministry.
Huh?
And he would give you like personalized news articles. It was awesome.
Cool. That's rad. My grandpa does that, but he only ever gives them to me. I'm like clearly his favorite, which I relish. Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of a grumpy guy too. So I'm one of like 3 people he likes, which feels great. Like he'll show up and like brush off my brothers and then hand me like a newspaper clipping. He's like, I saw this 3 weeks ago and thought of you. I'm praying for you. Love you. And then it's like,
and you're totally in the will.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yes.
I should double check to make sure, but probably. I think I am the will. Like,
You are the will.
You are
That's perfect. So this is, it's, speaking of like finances and newspaper clippings, the first high school director job I had when I was 21, I think. I remember after service, an older lady came up and gave me a manila folder like you're talking about.
Yes.
And she was very serious. Like, this is what the Lord says the youth should do as a fundraiser.
Oh,
Mm.
yes.
And it was from various sources, how to build birdhouses. I still have this, like, it's in my file. I just don't want to go off camera, but like someday I'll show. It's like from like old magazines, like not even like currently published, but like she found these old, and it's how to design and build your own birdhouses. And that was the fundraiser for youth summer camp that was inspired.
And she had been holding onto those clippings for years.
Yeah.
And you didn't really want to break it to her. Like, if we wanted to do it, I could find those on the internet.
Right.
Older people are such a delight to me.
Yes.
I love them so much. It's so great. I've got some good stories for you for later.
I am so excited to hear. You have no idea.
I know.
You should make a TikTok
Oh,
and then
word,
send
yes.
it.
I don't know. Can you monetize TikTok though?
I think so.
How do
You can
kids make money off of TikTok these days?
ads, right? Don't people play like ads? Isn't that a thing?
Well, yeah, you can get ads, but
Yeah,
like
like if
in-
companies reach out to you. Yeah, I don't think it's like YouTube where you can't, because like if you had a 15-second ad before a 15-second TikTok, no one's watching that, right? Like that ruins the app.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that you have to like get companies reach out and sponsor people, I think. So I think it's like just individual videos. I don't know.
Well, with that said,
awkward pause.
that's right. We have lots of that, and that's what the editing is
True.
for.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Speaking of that, you mentioned if there's anything that needs to be edited, just pause and say you need to edit that out after. So we are live.
Add a swear word in there so you have to.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
All right. Well, with that said, that's a good transition. We're gonna do our countdown and go live. If I can find the countdown, there it is. Hello and welcome to the Church in Context podcast. My name is John. I'm here introducing the host, Jonah. Jonah, how's it going today?
I'm doing well. So we've talked about it before. We're in the Pacific Northwest, and it's sunny for some reason. In March. Spring looks like it's just around the corner. I'm pumped full of vitamin D and just excited about life all of a sudden.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, I don't know how cold it is, but I was walking around in shorts and a t-shirt and went to see, I forget, some kind of medical appointment. And she like looked at me and was like, "Oh, it must be sunny outside." So yeah, it was. I totally feel you. It's wonderful. Maybe those of you and the rest of the country, whoever's listening, maybe it's been sunny for you, but it is a welcome thing here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, everything was frozen over. And now we're all in shorts and short sleeves. It's awesome.
It's wonderful. Yeah. It's maybe the second most welcome thing in the Pacific Northwest after Student Connection. So just want to plug them. They are, it's really excited. They are having a live, everything looks like in-person conference the first weekend of November. So hopefully that's enough time for us to kind of get through season of COVID with hopefully no strange variants that overcome vaccines. But that's how we're thinking so far. So just want to plug them, and yeah, excited for that.
Yeah, I'm more excited for Student Connection than I am to see the sun again. to be honest. I'm really looking forward to it.
And if you're listening to the audio right now, I mean, Jonah really needs to see the sun again too. So, I mean, that is a very
pasty white.
That's right. Hey, I want to take some time to introduce our very special guest, Angela Davis of Frugal Living Northwest. And, we could have asked like Dave Ramsey or Warren Buffett to come on, but we thought, who better to speak to our audience than Angela Davis. So welcome to the show, Angela.
I think you've oversold things. Hello to my favorite millennials.
Wow, is Jonah a millennial? Are you considered that?
I think I'm like the border year. So I think they always say the cutoff is 96, and I don't know what that means because I'm a 96. So I don't know if the cutoff means I am or I'm like the cutoff until you're a Gen Z. No one has told me.
You can swing both ways, my friend.
Yeah,
you can claim both.
I'll take it. I'll double dip there.
The best of both worlds. That's right. Yeah, I'm right in the middle of millennial. There's no distinguishing that. So, yeah. All right. Favorite millennials. Yeah. So I was excited to invite Angela on, as I think of my time in ministry. Angela has been a super faithful youth ministry volunteer. And I just remember all the times of just, so for the students who are listening, when you attend like a youth event or something like that requires a payment, it's not helpful to hand the youth pastor like a wad of cash as they have 700 other things to do, like right before you're going on a trip. So Angela is always super helpful because she would take the money and sort that and help all that. But with her background, that's just the very tip of the iceberg of the wisdom that is coming today. So I'm super excited. I'm definitely hyping this up.
You really are. And the reality is I do those jobs so I don't have to talk to people. So
that's good. Yeah, it's hard to talk to people and handle money at the same time. If you can do both, you're in good shape.
That's right.
True. Yeah. So we were going to talk a little bit about some kind of financial money stereotypes. When I was in high school, I didn't understand money at all. And now that I'm 24, I realize that I still don't understand money at all. And there's a lot of things people get wrong. Myself included as the example there. But Angela knows a lot more about money than most of us do. So we're going to go over some, financial stereotypes, some do's and don'ts, some things that people think about money that are just flat out wrong. Kind of open us up today.
Oh, golly. Someone else should go first. I'm not great at coming up with things.
Yeah.
I shared this backstage before we started, but I remember when I was 16 and I had my first ever job that paid $6.25 an hour bagging groceries at a grocery store. And I remember my very first paycheck was like $180 and I got it cashed out. I didn't know you could direct deposit, or I don't know if I had a bank account, whatever, had it cashed out. And I just remember holding what was that, $9 $20 bills and just feeling like that was the most money. Like I've achieved it. So this is a great paycheck. This is wonderful. I'm so excited. So just the perception of how much money is a lot of money really changes as you get older. So that's kind of one general kind of misconception that I can think of.
Another one that I have found, because I have 5 children and my oldest has a job now, and it is shocking to her every time she gets a paycheck how much money that she has to give to the government.
Oh,
mm-hmm.
Just she gets so angry almost every time. And I'm like, it's never going to change. They're going to keep taking money out. And just trying to explain where the money goes and then how you might get some back. It's all very confusing. But it's well, here's the rest of your life, my friend. You're always going to have to give a good portion of what you make to the government.
That's always something I never wanted to think about, that, at least when I got started at $6.25, probably turned out to less than $4 an hour, yes, after taxes. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but somewhere around that. And you just don't think about it.
It's
just
best
think that
to not think about it.
right.
Ignorance is bliss.
It
That's
is. My
right.
daughter comes home and she's like, I mean, by the way, in the Portland metro area, minimum wage, that's what we're talking about, is
Yep.
like insane. It's over
Oh, it
$13
is.
an hour. So anytime
Mhm.
anyone complains, I'm like, give me a break.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She comes home and she's like, man, it's like I just had to work for $10 an hour because the government got so much of it. I'm like, cry me a river, sister. And then I'm
I
like,
know.
oh, when I was your age, and I realized that was 30 years ago, so I should just be quiet. I'm not. I should just be quiet and let the pain sink in. Yes.
What was minimum wage? What was your first salary?
Well, I worked at
hour.
Subway when I was 16, as well as I had a seasonal job as a Christmas elf at the mall where they have pictures taken.
A Christmas elf.
Yeah,
That
so like
is-
I would help, when you come to get your pictures taken with Santa and
That
the
is-
Easter Bunny. Yes.
Wow.
And so I think I made $5 an hour. But minimum wage at that time was $4.25. So I was really
Nice.
moving up. Yes.
Yeah, that's really funny because my first job at that grocery store, when the Coca-Cola company came and made a big display, they made a big like Santa's throne.
Oh.
And I was the only person who fit properly into the Santa outfit. So I had to like have kids on my lap and take pictures on a throne of 12 packs of Coke.
Oh my goodness.
At the grocery store?
Grocery store. Yes.
What a weird promotion.
Oh, it was so weird. Like the store was a lot like Winco. So imagine like Winco, except you go up and there's the 12 packs. And there's like the Diet Coke is like silver, and then regular Coke is red. So it's like the Christmas colors. Yeah, it was super weird.
And so then they grabbed the teenage boy to be Santa.
Yes. Because upper level management did not want to do that. There's no way.
Gosh, that is awesome.
It's wild.
Awesome. Thank you for that story.
You're welcome. Jonah, were you a Christmas reindeer or elf or Santa yourself?
Ironically, like, no, I feel like I would kill that though. I feel like I'd be a fantastic Santa's elf. Yeah, like I think that's my calling, but I haven't had the chance yet. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're in charge of one of those Santa meet and greets, I think I'd crush it as an elf. No, but like I remember a weird money stereotype from my first job. I think it's because of this idea that like teenagers don't know how much money is like a lot of money. Not only did I think I was making a lot of money, and to be fair, in Oregon, $9.25 an hour to start a minimum wage.
Dude, that's not bad.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
To work to do summer camps for the YMCA, fantastic. But not only that, I didn't have a semblance for how much more money other people were making than me. I was like, okay, I'm in the realm of these other people. Maybe if I'm lucky, someday I can make up to $20 an hour. Like I was like, that's probably what Bill Gates is raking in. But,
definitely my parents are making this much money, and they're like, no, we're not.
Yeah, exactly. So that, I don't know, I guess the gap between, not only did I realize like, wow, not only I think $9 was a huge amount of money, I didn't think it got that much better. But even in youth ministry, I'm learning that's not true. I'm already making more than $9 an hour. Don't want to give my exact amount, but it's more than 9. Not trying to brag.
That's good to know that it's more than 9.
Hopefully it's more than $13.25 because you work in Oregon.
True. Yeah, that's fair. It's even more than $13.25.
All right, perfect.
We're getting warmer there. Yeah, exactly.
I would say another one for me was overvaluing a car, especially thinking like buying a new car was a good idea. Like I remember thinking that, and just how much I would invest and save for that new car, or I remember my first car was a 1995 Toyota Avalon, and I was like seriously thinking about putting like new rims on it. Like seriously.
Oh my word. Oh my word.
And I see it with if you're a teenage boy listening to this, it's the common thing. Like the obsession with got to have a cool car, has to look right. You spend a lot of money, like a car, like you don't want a car that goes fast. Like a car that goes fast costs more to maintain, it costs more gas, and
Mm.
you're going to get a speeding ticket. And that's just bad on a lot of levels. So
You should just assume until you're like 25 that this car I'm going to wreck. And so don't put anything into it. Like, don't even put a sticker on it. It's not worth it because it will be totaled
yes,
out of your own stupidity.
that's what happened to my F1 when I was 18.
Right.
Right.
Super weird.
Awesome. I remember in high school, a friend of mine had like this Crown Vic from the 90s, and I graduated in 2015. And he got he painted the whole thing. So it was an old police car, and he painted it all black, including like I think black rims. And he had like a way of starting the car, like an ignition that was remote as well. It is like dusty Crown Vic. It was fantastic. I loved that car. It wasn't even mine, but I have fond memories of my friend's car. So I don't know. Maybe you'll look back on it someday and appreciate it, but financially you'll regret it. So yeah.
All right. Any other financial stereotypes? I can think of one more. It's a lot better to. Oh gosh, and this is one that you actually taught me. Angela, this is one. It's a lot better to invest in something that is quality than just going and buying the cheapest thing. So my example, and this is hilarious because I didn't even invest in this. My example was every year I would go through some variation of a used or cheaply purchased blender until it's finally a Black Friday sale or something that you got a Ninja blender, and I still use it, and it's still good to go. Like, just besides cars, invest in things that are quality.
Yes, there's like a middle range that you don't want to get the cheapest thing, and you usually don't want to get the most expensive thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But go like right in the middle and buy it during Black Friday.
It's perfect.
There you go. We can stop the podcast right now. Everyone will make wise decisions now.
All right, go forth and make wise decisions. We'll see you next week. Just kidding. Hang with us. We're going to get into more of the content now. So wanted to kind of talk about some of like the, being church in context, some of the theology of personal finances, as well as just talking about some real life tips. Our audience here is primarily like teenagers, young adults who are listening to this. So there's a lot of good things, good seeds, so to speak, that could be planted. But more importantly, there's a lot of things that could be done that are destructive for the future that could be made now. So I want to kind of quickly talk about both of those things today.
Yeah, and we've hyped up Angela a lot, right? We've called you the second coming of Dave Ramsey. We've called you the next Warren Buffett, right? So you have some big shoes to fill, but who are you? Some people listening might not know who you are. We talked a little bit about your involvement in our ministry, but I'm curious, what do you do? How long have you been involved in ministry for? What's kind of your background, I guess, before we get into it?
Yeah, like, why should you guys listen to me? That's the main question. I love talking about money. I love learning about personal finance. And I especially love incorporating that with my walk with Jesus and encouraging people to do that as well. I am a mom of 5. I live in Portland, and I do own a business called frugallivingnorthwest.com. It's a website. I do have I have some social media presence as well, but it is a brand or a website that is devoted to helping women live well on a budget in the Pacific Northwest. So probably your mom would enjoy my website, but that's what my job is running that. And my ministry passion is helping people learn how to manage their money and their wealth well, so that they can accomplish what the Bible tells us to accomplish with our money.
That's great. And that's that. I love that passion too. That really, that really is shown. So this is, I don't know if I've even told you this story before, but when I was candidating at the church that I used to work for, and you were there, and you and your husband briefly introduced yourself in the hallway.
Oh gosh, what did
I
we
don't
say?
know. You said, like, we don't know anything and we're not good at anything except if you want advice about money and you need some direction about money. So that was it. That was like, I'm like, who's like, it's like February or whenever I first like visited, and why is your husband wearing shorts? And like, it was like questions that went through my head, right?
Yeah.
And that was the only context that I had for like months before I got to know you. So
Oh, that's funny.
it's true. That is sunk deep. That is your passion, and I just love that.
And that holds true. Don't ask me anything else about anything. I can help you with money. How about that?
Perfect. So, yeah, just kind of, in a few minutes, and you can, Jonah and I can kind of interject if we have questions. But what is a good theology of money? What is a good biblical approach to money, as far as living as the church? Especially, we don't just want to take, passages from scripture and be like, all right, this needs to be followed exactly how I think it is without the context we live in. So we, a lot of our listeners live, we actually have some listeners from Canada too. So kind of in North America, right? So living in the West, living in the developed world in 2021 with those biblical principles, living as a church, what does that look like?
So when I look at scripture, and I go through from page 1 till the very last page and see what is important to God when it comes to money, what do I see? The thing that is broadcast the loudest is that God's heart is that our money is used to alleviate the suffering of the poor. I wish it was more complicated than that, or maybe more complex, or give us a lot more direction. There's not a whole lot about like, this is how you should divvy out your money every month that you make. Even like, this is how much you should give, and this is how much you should live on. This is how much you like. It's not really crystal clear what you're supposed to do. What is really apparent is for those of us who have wealth, which I'm going to get to, if you have wealth, it is to be used to alleviate the suffering of the poor. And the poor in scripture is kind of, I use that as a broad term to refer to a number of subgroups. That would be like the actually materially poor. They're hungry, they don't have a lot. So it's the hungry, the thirsty, those who don't have clothes. It's the widow and the orphan and the sojourner in the land, which would be the alien or the immigrant. It would be the prisoner. I feel like maybe I've covered my bases. It is when we look in one of the Gospels, it's the least of these that Jesus talks about. And so our job, again, with whatever money we have, is we should always be looking for how can we make the physical lives of those who are less fortunate better. And so, and when I hear that and I see that over and over and over in scripture, guys, it's like from the beginning through the law. And then as we go through how God instructs the nation of Israel to like set up their systems and treat each other. And then looking at the prophets in the Old Testament, and then through what Jesus tells us and the epistles. Like Paul just hammers us on this stuff. Oh, yeah. It is about alleviating the suffering of the poor. And so I look at that and say, it sure seems like I need to formulate my personal finances so there is money left over so that I can accomplish that God's purpose for my wealth. And he is God throughout scripture. That's a specific command, encouragement, direction to those of us with wealth. And it is super duper easy for middle class, those of us who are middle class Americans or live in middle class households, like if you don't have your own income, but the household you live in could be classified as middle class, to say, well, I'm not the wealthy. So when I see passages about like referring to those people who have wealth, it's easy for me to say, well, that's not me, because I look around and I'm like, I'm just like middle of the road, right? Compared to other people. But when I force myself, when I put myself in a global context, like who am I compared to those in the world, I look and go, oh, I'm the wealthy. I have a lot of money compared to other people. And so it is my job to manage my finances in such a way that I can contribute to alleviating the suffering of the poor. And so, and when I understood that, and when I explained that, especially to young people who, Gen Z and younger millennials, when they see, oh my God, like they see the suffering of the poor, and they're wondering, what is my response to it? Like to realize that I've been given a directive from God, like your privilege and your wealth and your income earning potential, the Lord wants to use that in a powerful way to make other people's lives not more comfortable, but like tolerable. That I know for me gets me so excited. And I can see young people, when they get that, they get super excited about making really wise decisions now that can make sure that you can accomplish God's purpose with your finances as you get older and you start making more money.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's good. I think of, just that perspective of we are wealthy, whether
Mhm.
we think we are or not, as we think
Mhm.
about, living in the United States or Canada or just kind of the West. You think about how far our money goes when we spend it here versus when it's spent maybe overseas or even just a different community. We are extremely wealthy. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
And it's in addition to our actual wealth is the opportunity that a lot of people in the church in North America, the opportunity we have to create income and wealth is there. Our system in the United States and in Canada and probably a lot of Western European countries is our ability to go out and make money. We have opportunities that other people in other countries just don't have. And so I see that we are uniquely positioned as North Americans specifically to go make some money to then distribute it to alleviate the suffering of the poor and to further the gospel of Jesus Christ. So to me, it's a really exciting time to be living in human history, that I have that opportunity that people in past generations and other areas of the world right now, they just don't have that opportunity. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
About having the opportunity, like we are positioned in order to be really good at making money.
Yes. And one thing I appreciate about your kind of approach to it is sometimes if a church does a talk on finances, it's very like in the corner. It's kind of its own separate thing. What you've done is you've brought finances to the rest of the things we talk about in church on Sunday. It's about loving your neighbor as yourself. It's about missions. It's about making God's name known and living as a new creation. And how is that going to change the way God can interact in your life? The way you use your money is part of that. Not in some abstract way where you'll be blessed beyond belief and become rich because you follow these 5 steps. But no, it's at the heart of Jesus's mission. That has a very direct correlation to how you use our money. And we see that, like you were saying, throughout Scripture. I think of the rich young ruler. I think of the church in Acts. I think of, everything from the year of Jubilee to the gleaning laws. It's there throughout. So yeah, man, that's awesome. I don't know if I've ever heard you go through Scripture talking about money, but yeah, as you brought it up, check. It's all there.
And as you look through Scripture, I mean, if you put on your what does God say about money glasses and read through the Mosaic Law, it actually gets pretty exciting. You're like, oh my goodness, God is so concerned about how the Israelites were treating each other and interacting with each other, it is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And I mean, it gives us a whole new purpose for getting an education and getting a job and, being, excelling at the job that the Lord has called us to. And I think it just gives purpose, especially for those people who are like, I'm not called to vocational ministry, full-time ministry. I'm called to be, or I would really like to be, an engineer or an entrepreneur or, whatever occupation. It's like, you go and be financially successful and take your and not even the excess, but even more than the excess, and invest it in people and in God's kingdom. And that is so exciting. And I think we can have such an impact. I know we can have a tremendous impact in this world if we have an entire generation of people who are committed to that. And not just being financially successful so that I am more comfortable and my children have a wonderful life.
Makes sense. Kind of a follow-up question I have, and this, when I say when you use the word the church, when I think of the church, you can think of the church as the institution, maybe kind of a two-part question, the institutional church, as well as just the body of believers who live in the West. When it comes to accomplishing that heart of God, that mission of alleviating the suffering of the poor and giving to the poor, what are we doing well and what are we not doing well, or what could we do differently?
Golly, okay, can you ask me that question again?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Regarding when it comes to giving to the poor and kind of accomplishing what you just said, accomplishing God's mission as far as finances, what is the church doing well and what could it do differently? What could it do better?
I think what we do well is really finding people who are living among, or organizations that are living among the poor, and giving opportunities to invest in that, to make people's lives, I mean, we're really talking physically, comfortable is not the right word, but like tolerable. Feeding them and giving them clean water, teaching them skills so that they can provide for their own families, those types of things. I think that what we don't do well, it's easier to identify that, right? Is giving our people, our brothers and sisters, the vision that our money is, and our money and our work is not to be primarily done to make ourselves more and more comfortable. And that God is very, very concerned with how we use our abundance. What are we doing with our abundance? And I think we can do a much better job from the top down, honestly. I want to hear from, and this isn't a criticism of any particular church that I go to at all. But I want to hear more and more about the act of sacrificing and choosing someone else over yourself. It is like intentionally loving your neighbor as you love yourself. And what does that mean? Like, what could that look like? That it could be, that it should be, as I look at the New Testament in particular, it's much more than tithing your 10% to your local church. It is like, when I'm told to love my neighbor as myself, what does that mean for my money? And going to the Lord and asking the Holy Spirit to reveal to you as an individual, and then as you, make a family, enter into a family, and raise your family. Like, what does that mean for your family? I would like to see that far more like talked about like making a mutual, like a community decision to say it's not about us and our comfort and building programs in our individual churches so that our children and our people, kind of like blessing the blessed. It's like, what can we do to push this abundance out to people who don't have abundance. So when I see Jesus's command to love my neighbor as myself, I get kind of excited. Like, well, could that possibly mean, and this is just an idea. It's not like a command, but like an interpretation of that, or how I could live that out is, well, what if I made a goal that my income is loving others as I love myself? What if our family's income, we got to give 50% of what we made away? Something like that. And that I want to see that. I would love for the church to get to the point where that is the norm and not the crazy family sitting in the back who's like radically giving. It is, there's a lot more of us being radical givers because we have been given so much in our country, in our culture, you know, as North Americans. Like, we've been given so much. We have a responsibility to distribute that. So. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that vision, that kind of getting to the point where we can be loving others as ourselves financially, maybe even literally. And yeah, I think that's a great call for the church to just be as generous as we can be. I think that's how Christ speaks about it. Definitely seems intentional, especially like I said earlier in Acts, it seems to come up a lot. And so since a lot of our viewers might be younger, maybe they're in high school or broke college students right now, what can they be doing to prepare so that they can get to a place where that vision can be accomplished? I feel like there's a couple steps between, living under your parents' roof and giving away half of your income to those who really need it. So what can they do now?
Jonah, is such a good question. I love it. Number one thing you can do, my friends, don't go into debt. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't tell me, I'm going to get fiery now. Don't tell me how unnecessary it is, because it's absolutely not necessary. It's not. The number one thing that you can do is just don't go into debt for any reason other than like a medical emergency. And hopefully you have insurance to cover that, or your parents do. So that would mean, and so it would be choosing to make decisions today to allow you in 10 or 20 years to be a radical giver, because you can be a generous radical giver at any age, but it starts getting real. You start getting lots of zeros behind it as your earning potential, your earning potential gets larger, which is your 30s, 40s, 50s. But you have to make the decision. It's really good to make the decision as you're going into college and into your 20s, in order, like, the decisions you make today will impact your decades to come. So I have tons of friends who, for instance, have enormous amounts of student debt, even in their 40s and 50s, that they're still paying off. That keeps them from being radical givers and doing what the Lord has really laid on their heart. I have friends, in particular male friends, who didn't finish college, who really regret that. And that is just because their earning potential has been thwarted. Now, I don't think that going to college by any means is the end all be all. It's just making a good decision, saying, like, what can I do today to ensure that I have as many financial doors open to me in the future? So don't get in debt for college. Don't buy a new car. No one needs a new car. Like, don't get a loan for a new car. Don't use credit cards as a tool, because you're going to mess it up. And not just you, like all of us do. I messed it up. It's not using debt as a tool to try to build wealth. It will never, ever work. You will always get burned. So, I mean, that's really one of the biggest things. It's like, make a good decision today about your career path. And that doesn't mean that, like, you can't change your career path. And, some parents say, make sure you know what you're going to do before you get your college degree. I mean, hogwash. I have a history degree and I'm making bank right now. It has nothing to do with my history degree. But the fact that I finished what I started when I was young has made my life so much easier. And then just avoiding debt, you guys, just say no to it. There are ways to go through college without debt. There's ways to get cars without debt. It's going to be harder, and you're going to have to make sacrifices. You will never, ever once regret not going into debt. I don't know a single old person, I'm 45, a single old person my age who says, I really wish I would have had more debt when I was younger. I wish that I would have taken on more debt. No one says that. So I encourage the younger people listening. Now, by the way, the Bible does not say that debt is a sin.
Sure.
The Bible never, though, says it's a wise idea. It's always framed as not the best idea, like bad things came from it. But it's not a sin. But I would love for anyone under 40 to dare God to show them a way to do what you believe he's called you to do without debt. To say, I'm going to take debt off the table and give the opportunity to the Lord to show up and show you what he's got up his sleeve.
Awesome. Debt is, I think that's fantastical, not becoming a slave to money in a sense, right? When you start owing people a lot of money, and that's where your paycheck is going, that's where, part of your work and life is going towards. It is easy to become kind of enslaved by that, right? And so I guess, for people who are younger that are listening, what are like specific ways that they gather debt? What are decisions that they're maybe making wrong, or like pitfalls that they're falling into that are leading them to gain debt? How are they messing up?
Well, I think it's the belief that there's only one way to go to college, only one way to get a car. There's only one way to build credit, or you'd like to be successful, and not thinking outside that box. And to be super duper fair, you guys when you were younger, as well as the people listening, were fed that by adults. So I understand why people take on debt. It's because it is presented to you guys as the only way to do things. And that's just not true. It's absolutely not true. And there's also that idea that like young people deserve the best of everything. You deserve to go to the very best college. You deserve a good car. You deserve a reliable car. All those things that then I can imagine an 18, 19-year-old going, well, I have no other option. The only thing I can do is to go into debt because I've been told by everyone around me, I must go to a private college. I must do these. I must do all these things. And it's really impossible to do without debt. And so what I like to encourage young people is like, there's lots of different ways to do life, and they can be just as fun. I'm all about fun. I'm not about to tell a kid like you should go work full time and go to community college if that's not what you want to do. Like I want you to go have some fun. There's ways to do college or trade school or, driving, all the things that you want to do without going into debt. Did I answer your question, Jonah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just about making those decisions and not getting caught up in this box that we've made.
Because there's definitely a box that the secular culture has created for us, and Christians go, oh, I must go to that box. Instead of like, that box was not created with your best interest in mind. Like it wasn't. It absolutely, obviously, it's not. I would like to see Christians who are counseling high school kids and college kids, like, let's show you a different way to do this. And it's, by the way, it's going to involve some hard work, and it's going to involve maybe not the very best, and that's okay. I would also like to dispel the idea that middle-class American Christian kids deserve the best. You don't. We don't. We can settle for perfectly fine. I tell my kids, like, you're going to go to a perfectly fine state school, because that's where you can go to not get debt. And here's the great thing. There are vibrant Christian communities on secular campuses.
Yeah.
That is where I met Jesus Christ, was at a state school. It was the most, those people loved Jesus. You can find your people that love Jesus on almost any campus. I'm sure there's some inside Portland that it's a little bit hard, but those are the ones that cost like $70,000 a year anyways that you're not going to go to. But really, any state school that you go to, there's going to be amazing campus ministries where people are on fire for Jesus. You just have to go find your people. And I also love Christian colleges, but that's my experience is going to a state, going to secular universities.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to add a couple of quick things. So I'm going to tie this back to the very beginning of the show where we talked about misconceptions. And one thing that teenagers, I know I didn't realize, was this evil word. I guess it's evil. I don't know. It profits people a lot. Called interest, right? So when you buy a car, let's say you want to buy a car for $18,000, right? And they give you this huge interest rate that you might pay double for the car that so it might actually cost you like $35,000 by the time you end up paying for the car, right?
Yes.
So, and I know college debt's not as huge as auto loan interest and credit card debt and that kind of thing, but interest is really what keeps people trapped into that debt. That's a really big piece. So that's just one factor, when it comes to that. And as far as like colleges too, I totally see that point, just avoiding student loans. I would say this is real practical, is apply for student aid. And there's something that a lot of times you'll get called a grant. That's free money. So always, if you're thinking, I can't apply for FAFSA, which is the student aid, always apply, right? Always apply. You probably will get some free money. So go ahead and take that. That's good. But yes, I agree. Like avoid debt if you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's harder to make those decisions when you don't have an end goal in mind. But if you're doing all this because you want to love your neighbors yourself, and your end goal is to use your money to further God's message in the world, man, maybe I don't need that Starbucks coffee. Maybe I don't need to go to that college. Maybe I don't need that nice car. Because what I'm building for is something eternal, something that is out of this world. And it's easier to get excited for that. So yeah, that's fantastic. Anyways, we're getting a little bit low on time here, so I might need to wrap up sooner, or maybe take a quick pause in a second potentially.
I think let's do that. Let's call it for all of our listeners right now. Let's call it a quick break because
intermission.
Angela has to schedule something.
Intermission sounds fancy. Cool, and definitely mute. Definitely mute. Throwing that out there as we are live. Cool.
Yep. So we'll resume this conversation with just practical advice. That's what I want to hear is when you get back.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I have 6 minutes. It doesn't open yet. Well, let me look. Did we pause everything?
I'm going to edit this out.
Yeah. Good luck editing too, because I went right from like good stuff to the break talk. So
I know you're killing me.
Sorry. Okay. I mean, yeah, the site is getting slammed, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't do anything right now.
Okay.
Sorry.
All good. Well, yeah. Sorry, I wasn't sure if we should do the pause or keep going.
We can go for a few more minutes if we have one more question or something. A question. Then okay.
Let's just do one more question. Okay. So last question.
Wait. To help you out in the future, do you want to put up our logo so you know where to start the audio back again?
That's all right. I'm writing down the timestamp.
Okay.
To edit. So last question, wanted to ask, just for those who are listening, thinking about planning for the future, what are some like practical steps, for those, like I just mentioned, apply for FAFSA, apply for student aid. What are some practical things to either invest financially in the future or invest financially now, and be giving now, or maybe avoiding some common pitfalls? I'll go ahead and give an example in that I went in to deposit. I got like a check from my grandparents for my 18th birthday to Bank of America. And I went physically to deposit. This is before you could deposit it into the actual, ATM. And they immediately, today's your 18th birthday. we have a special financial advisor, and they took me right into that person's office, and on my 18th birthday signed up for a credit card. Now, I wasn't someone to, I always like paid it off or whatever. I didn't rack up a bunch of debt, but that trap, I walked right into that sucker, right? So kind of with that in mind, don't. So my advice is don't sign up for a credit card on your 18th birthday.
Or your 19th birthday.
Yeah. But kind of with that in mind, you can continue talking about credit cards or anything else. What's some real practical advice that our listeners can kind of sink their teeth into right now?
So the first thing would be don't get credit cards. You do not need to do life with a credit card. I mean, you can do life without one. So as much as possible, use cash, use your debit card, be aware of what's in your, use your checking account. When you use cash, even more than a debit card, when you use a credit card, let's do it this way. When you use a credit card, studies show that you spend 30% more. It's just, even if you're using a gift card, you spend more than you intended to. So that's just like realizing that you are not smarter than the credit card company. I'm not smarter than the credit card company. Really, no one is. There's no way to work the system. You will always end up where you don't want to be. How about that? So just don't use a credit card. Use other things. Another thing that I did when I was in college, and I really strongly suggest other kids do. When I say kids, I'm sorry. I'm like your mother. I'm going to call you a kid until, I don't know, you're 35. Is when you get a job, immediately get your paycheck. And you can do this with bank accounts, or you could even do it with jars and cash, is get your paycheck. And I suggest that you take 10% of your whatever you make. Let's say you make $100. Take 10% of that and give it to your local church. Take 10% more, and I want you to put it in a special account that's called extra giving. And that extra giving is what you get to use as like a way to bless people. You could bless your friends. You could bless an organization. It's your way of contributing to the needs of people around you. It's like your slush fund for other people. So it's not just like, I'm going to use this to take my friend out to coffee every week. I'm thinking more like, I'm going to use this to alleviate the suffering of the poor. It's like getting that started. And so it's teaching yourself that being a radical giver is not something that I do when I'm older. It's something that you get to do right now, that you are called to do right now, regardless of your age. Now you have $80 left because you gave 10 to your church, 10 to radical generosity, and you get to choose how you're going to do that. Now you have $80 left. Split that in half. $40 goes in your spend jar, or it can sit in your checking account. Take the other $40 and put it in your savings account. And that will help you be able to save for things that you want to do with your money. Buy a car, pay for your car insurance, whatever you're required to pay for when you go to college, whatever it might be, always do that. You'll never regret. I live my life very much. What will I regret in the future? It's a very Enneagram 6 thing for me to do. But you'll never regret having a robust savings account. Never, not once. You will regret spending almost all your paycheck getting coffee and buying Nikes. I'm not against drinking coffee, and I'm not against you buying a pair of Nike sneakers because they look awesome. And when you're older, you're not going to look good in bright white tennis shoes, so you may as well embrace it when you're young. I would look stupid in bright white tennis shoes. You guys should absolutely do that. I want you to have fun with the money that you earn. Just force yourself to accomplish your other goals while you get to have fun. I think those are my practical tips.
It's good. Love it. This is one that I've thought of recently. Have any of the practical tips for you shifted because of the pandemic? So, for example, one for me is so much easier to realize how much money you have when you can spend cash, right? But a lot of places right now aren't taking cash. So kind of what do you do if they're like, no, you must use a card? I mean, do you just use debit card, or do you just like really stay on top of that checking account and make sure you know everything? Or is there a different thing that you kind of use to avoid that trap, I guess?
Yeah, it's so annoying that Dutch Bros won't take my debit card in, or it won't take my cash.
Yeah.
I think that there's a number of things that you could do. So like, it is okay to use a debit card. I think it's just to be smart about how much money is in there. So make sure, like my daughter, she has the app on her phone and she's really on top of that. And then, what I primarily spend with cash. And so what I can do is take the cash out of my envelope. I'm an old lady using envelopes. It is the best way for me to save. I don't spend as much money when I'm using cash. And then I deposit it into my checking account. So
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's you'll figure out a way to work around it. Like for those of us in Oregon, we have a really hard time because we don't pump our own gas, conceptualizing of how can I pay for gas without a credit card or a debit card. So you'll figure out workarounds for that. The goal is that you feel like you're in control of your money and you're telling your money what to do based on your goals. And so one of the best ways you can do that is build boundaries around your spending the moment you get a paycheck, or the moment you get that gift from your grandparents, or the moment you get your allowance from your mom and dad, whatever it is what boundaries can you put around yourself so that you are forced to control your money? And so again, that's just getting that paycheck and distribute it into buckets, and always having some money that you get to spend on the things that you want to spend it on. You might not be able to buy a pair of Nikes or Converses, or that's what everyone's wearing, right? Every month, but it's being able to spend some money on yourself. So make sure you always have some of that, if it's even just being able to go get coffee once a month, something like that.
Good. All right, I'm going to edit this out. Do you need to go?
No, it's the site slammed.
Okay.
The whole metro area knew that it was going live at 5:00.
If we're good on questions, we can move into the ending segment, which is talking about something on your mind. That's normally pretty quick.
It's not working. I can't do anything.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go ahead and hang on. So I'll do a pause and I'll introduce our last section.
Okay.
All right. Well, normally each week we do a segment where we share something that's either big in your life, maybe it's personally, or just kind of in the news. So just, maybe in a minute, maybe minute and a half, what's something big that's going on this week for you? Jonah, do you want to start us off?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of joked about it early on, but genuinely the weather changing has really helped my mood. And I think it's helped a lot of people's moods. No joke. I was at our youth group just last night and people just seemed happier when it's sunny. And, as funny as it might seem, the sun's coming up, so I can finally smile again. I think there's something to that, right? And what I love about it too, especially in the Pacific Northwest, where it's never that bad, but it's always overcast and rainy. We don't get huge snowstorms or too many tornadoes, just once last year. But what I love about it is that whenever it gets sunny, there's a collective happiness. Everybody starts to smile more, and it's contagious. So it's a small thing in the grand global scheme of all the things I could have on my mind. But right now, that's a big one for me.
That's so Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, right?
The only thing we can talk about is the sun is out. We're such dorks.
That's good. Hey, I think my thing was President Biden announcing that all adults should be able to get a vaccine by the end of May. I think that's what he said, or starting the end of May. So I'm excited because I'm the lowest possible priority in the whole country to get a vaccine. I was thinking I'm lucky I'll get one this year. So I'm just super excited. That the vaccine. I do have a negative one, so a kind of a split one. I mentioned last week my concern is that we're near the end of the finish line, and just the caution of people kind of backing off too soon. So I have several family members who live in Texas, and Texas has decided to completely reopen everything without any restrictions, which to me is frustrating because just kind of their lax restrictions has caused a couple family members who work in grocery to get COVID. So I have a few left who have not, and they're also not vaccinated. So yeah, just if you can, hang in there for like 2 more months. Just hang in there.
You can do it.
Yes, don't let go. Don't quit the race just yet. Everyone sacrificed so much already, and it's not worth letting, being loose about things and getting COVID like when your appointment is scheduled for the vaccine, So just be cautious. That's just got to affirm that again. So super excited. There seems to be light at the end of the tunnel. Angela, what about you?
Well, you kind of stole my thunder because that's mine as well. You guys, I am the biggest vaccine nerd right now. It's like I have memorized living in my head is every date for eligibility for the state of Oregon. If you want to know when you're going to be eligible to get the vaccine, I have it. It lives in my head rent free, like that TikTok. What lives in your head rent free? So just, the approval of the Johnson and Johnson vaccine for this week, I am so super excited about that. And I am, this last week I've been helping senior citizens get vaccine appointments. It's like my new obsession. And so Lord has cleared out my schedule, and that's what I do. And I got 6 people from church who are over 80 appointments this week. And I got them within like 1 day, and they've been looking forever. And it's just so frustrating for them. And I am like on the phone with an 85-year-old man, and I'm dancing in my living room because I'm so excited that they get to go in and get the vaccine. So awesome. I am so thrilled. I cannot wait to get mine. I can't wait for my husband and my daughter who, is eligible based on her age. All of it just makes me so excited, you guys. I cannot wait. Cannot wait.
If you want to know how into kind of the science of COVID she is, I remember for our Christmas party this year, she brought an Anthony Fauci shirt for our White Elephant gift exchange, which I thought was awesome. I was like, yeah, it makes sense.
And like the kids were like, what is this? Like, oh, I've wasted this White Elephant gift on you people because it's awesome. I tell you.
That was awesome.
Like I'm the friend that I want to be the friend, and I try to be, that will celebrate with everyone who gets a vaccine appointment. Like one of my friends got it, and I'm like, I'm actually tearing up on his behalf. And he's like, I don't really care about it. I'm like, I'm just so happy for you. I really am.
That's awesome. So, well, Angela, thanks for joining us for a podcast. And if any of you are listening, get a vaccine shot, go ahead and check out Frugal Living Northwest and shoot Angela an email, and she will celebrate with you.
I will tear up on your behalf.
That's right.
Exactly.
Awesome. If you want more financial advice and really like the best deals on Amazon, that's kind of what I see from what you that's my segment of looking into that, at least. And just other piece of financial advice, you can follow her on Instagram, I think. Frugal Living.
Yes,
that's right.
I am on Instagram, my friends.
Okay, perfect.
Frugal Living NW. Add the NW. Come and hang out. I really would love to get to 10,000 followers so I can get the swipe up feature on stories.
All right.
So all of you go over there and follow me, please.
Perfect. Doing it. And want to give another final shout out to Student Connection, which their podcast starts the end of this month. Really excited for that too. All right. Well, Angela, thanks again. And Jonah, thanks for hosting. Have a good week, everyone.